This is the first lecture in the series of molecular spectroscopy, or also known as the physical spectroscopy. Now, on your screen, you can see the range of topics that I'll be covering in this lecture series. Since questions have come in NET, GATE and TIFR from a variety of topics, I'll be discussing all those topics from which questions have come or are likely to come in detail in this lecture series. Now, since the number of topics is large, so this lecture series, I plan to complete this lecture series by the end of next month with at least 2 lectures per week, along with the questions which have come previously. Now, for the questions part, I'll be discussing the questions from NET, GATE and TIFR, and also try to discuss the questions from IIT JAM in the last 6 to 7 years. Now, I'll keeping the discussions from the very fundamentals, basics and simple, so that students preparing for IIT JAM can also benefit from this lecture series. So let's start with the introductions. In this particular lecture, I'll be discussing the introduction to molecular spectroscopy, and in the next lecture, I'll start the microwave spectroscopy. Now, what is molecular spectroscopy? I always emphasize on the name of a particular topic. So, molecular spectroscopy is the spectroscopy of molecules. Now, what is spectroscopy? Spectroscopy is the study of the interaction of matter with electromagnetic radiation. Now, in our case, that matter is molecules. Now, what are molecules? Molecules are a combination of atoms through chemical bonds. So that means whenever molecules interact with matter, there is some changes occurring, and that change and the study of that change is the molecular spectroscopy. Now, molecular spectroscopy in general are of 3 different types: absorption, emission, and scattering. Now, in absorption spectroscopy, because of the interaction of molecules with radiation, some amount of absorption is occurring. That is why absorption spectroscopy. For example, IR or microwave, which is also known as rotational spectroscopy. Similarly, in emission spectroscopy, some amount of emission is occurring because of the interaction of matter with radiation or interaction of molecules with radiation. For example, fluorescence and phosphorescence. Now, in scattering spectroscopy, because of the interaction with electromagnetic radiation, molecules scatter some amount of light. For example, Raman spectroscopy. Okay. So the question arises, why molecules will want to interact with electromagnetic radiation such that there is absorption, emission or scattering? Why this interaction has to take place? So that is because whenever molecules come in contact with electromagnetic radiation, they interact in a sense that they do some kind of transitions among their energy levels. So it might so happen that in absorption, the transition is happening from lower to a higher energy level. In emission, transition is happening from higher to lower energy level. So there is transition occurring between the energy levels of the molecules. So that means we need to study the type of energy levels which exist in molecules. Now, the total energy of any molecule can be expressed as the sum of individual terms. Let's say this is E total. This is the sum of contribution from translational motions, rotational motions, vibrational motions, electronic transitions, and nuclear spin contributions. Now, we have 5 terms. Now, according to the Born-Oppenheimer approximation, the electronic transitions are so quick that the nuclei are almost stationary. That means they are doing no kind of transitions. Or in other words, we can say that if there is a transition occurring between 2 energy levels, and now we are considering the electronic transitions, so the difference in the energy levels for the higher energy level and the lower energy level, the contribution from the energy of nuclear spin transitions will be 0. It will be same in both the states, so that gets cancelled out, and there is no contribution from the nuclear spin energy. So that is why we neglect this part, and we are now left with only 4 different terms. So that means we have translation, rotation, vibration and electronic contributions to the total energy of the molecule. Okay. So that means we are only concerned about the electronic contributions or the electronic environment or the electronic interaction with the electromagnetic radiation. Okay. Now, how do you represent the energy levels for a molecule? Let's say this is energy and this is R, or internuclear distance. Okay. Now, the energy levels look something like this. Okay. Now, if we are familiar, you would know these are the energy curves for the anharmonic oscillator. Now, for this energy level, this is the lowest energy. Let's say this is the ground state. So this is the ground state. Now, what ground state? What energy we are considering? So this is the electronic ground state. So that means this is the electronic excited state, and preferably the first excited state. Okay. Now, each of these electronic energy levels are further comprised of vibrational energy levels. And the difference between the two consecutive energy levels in the case of anharmonic oscillator is not constant. That is why they are decreasing. We'll see in details in infrared spectroscopy. So this is your vibrational energy level, say V1, V2, V equal to 3, 4, 5. Similarly, these energy levels will also exist in the electronic excited state. Say this is V dash equal to 1, V dash equal to 2, V dash equal to 3. Now, let's say you want to define this energy level. Okay, before that, now these vibrational energy levels have further closely spaced rotational energy levels. Let's say they are denoted by J. Okay, so let's say you want to define this energy level. So in this case, you see it is V dashed. So whenever you see a V dash or a V prime, that means this vibrational energy level is for the first excited state. So it is electronic first excited state, and in this case V is equals to 2, so that means it is the first excited vibrational state also. Similarly, if you want to find for this, okay, this should have been V equals to 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, similarly 0, 1, 2. So for this state, this is electronic ground state and vibrational ground state 2. So that is for identifying what state we are talking about. Now, let's say I am considering only this ground electronic state, and these are my vibrational levels. Say this is V equals to 0, V equals to 1, V equals to 2. Now in between these levels there exist closely spaced rotational levels. Let's say this is J equals to 1, J equals to 2, J equals to 3. Similarly, J dash equals to 1, J dash equals to 2, J dash equals to 3. And on this is J equals to 0, 0. So these are the rotational energy levels. Now in between these rotational energy levels exists closely spaced translation energy levels. Similarly here also. So that means these four contributions we have got. These are the electronic energy levels. I mean, not in sense like this is the energy representation for the first electronic state, this is for the the ground state, this is for the first excited state, and among these are the vibrational states. So these are the vibrational contributions. Then we have rotational contributions, these small ones, or these and then we have the translation contributions or the further closely spaced ones. Now, so if we want to see the difference between two energy states, it is maximum for electronic, then vibration, then rotation, and then translation. The translation energy states are so closely spaced in the range of 10 to the power minus 60 kilojoule per mole that transitions among these cannot be studied by any spectroscopy so far. That is why we don't have a dedicated spectroscopy for translation transitions. For rotation we have microwave, for vibration we have infrared, for electronic we have UV visible, but for translation we don't have a dedicated spectroscopy yet. Maybe we'll get in future. Okay. Now let's see how we can mathematically represent each energy level. So if you have the translation energy levels, they are represented as n square h square by 8 ml square. Now this is the same that you see in a particle in a box problem. Now particle in a box problem was designed in order to study the translational motions of a particular molecule or a particular atom. So that is why the formula is this. Now this n is the translational quantum number. Then we have rotation. Now this is bjj plus 1, and this comes from rigid rotor. So rigid rotor was designed to study the rotational motions of a molecule. Now this J is the rotational quantum number. Then we have vibration energy level, which is V plus half h nu, and this comes from simple harmonic oscillator or anharmonic oscillator, where V is the vibrational quantum number. And finally, electronic energy levels by minus 13.6 Z square by n square in electron volts, where this n is the principal quantum number. These quantum numbers are important when we'll see the when we'll discuss the spectroscopies. Okay. Now that means we are saying that transitions between these energy levels will occur. So it's possible that a molecule may do transition like this, or a molecule may do transition like this, or in between the rotational levels also it can do transitions. So are any random transitions allowed, or only specific transitions are allowed for specific spectroscopies? Now these are given by what is known as the selection rules. Now selection rules tells us whether a transition is allowed or forbidden. Now selection rules are specifically of two types: gross selection rule and specific selection rules. Now gross selection rules says or tells us the features that a molecule must possess in order to be active in a particular spectroscopy. But specific selection rules tells us what changes in the quantum numbers or in the symmetry of the molecule must take place such that the transition is allowed. Without that, the transition will be forbidden. Now, specific selection rule. How do you get the specific selection rule? Now, specific selection rule is found from what is known as a transition moment integral or transition dipole moment. Let's say, so that is represented as mu fi is equals to integration psi f star mu psi I d tau. Okay. Now, for any transition to be allowed, this mu, sorry, my camera stopped recording as it ran out of space. Okay, so for any transition to be allowed, this transition moment integral or the transition dipole moment should not be equals to 0. Then it is allowed. If it is equals to 0, it is forbidden. Now, that is the mathematical explanation to the specific selection rules. Now, what does this expression means in physical significance or physically? Now, psi j, let's say the transition is occurring between two energy levels. Let's say this is F. That will be easier. So this is my final state, this is my initial state. So the wave function for the initial state is psi n and this is psi f. So psi f star is the wave function for the final state and psi I is the wave function of the initial state, and this nu is the dipole moment. Okay. So in principle what this formula means is that the transition dipole moment for any molecule to interact with electromagnetic radiation and absorb or emit a photon of frequency mu, the transition dipole should be oscillating at the same frequency for the interaction to take place. That is, which is what we have studied in case of NMR also. When you have two different states, for the transition to take place, the frequency of the electromagnetic radiation should be exactly the same which is needed for the transition to take place. So that means there has to be some kind of resonance between the electromagnetic radiation and the difference between the two energy levels. So in terms of transition dipole moment, it should be oscillating, or the rotation along its axis should be such that it is oscillating at a frequency mu, which is exactly the same which is absorbed or emitted from the electromagnetic radiation. Okay, now more simply, if you want to understand what is dipole moment, dipole moment is a charge distribution in a molecule. So whenever there is some transition taking place, there is a change in the distribution of charge in a molecule. Let's say there is a charge redistribution. So the charge redistribution due to a transition that is taking place should not be equals to 0. That is what this means. So the charge redistribution should not be equals to 0, then it is allowed. If it is equals to 0, then it is forbidden. So that is the more simplistic explanation for this transition moment integral. Solving these, you will get those quantum numbers which those quantum numbers for final state and the initial states which are allowed. It might come in some case that those quantum numbers difference is plus minus 1 to be allowed or plus minus 0 to be allowed, which we'll see when we discuss the spectroscopies. Okay. Now, intensity of any radiation. Now, intensity depends on four factors, two of which we had seen in Lambert-Bates law in the last lecture, which are concentration and path length, which we know. But for physical spectroscopy, what we are interested in is the Boltzmann population and the transition moment integral. Now, intensity is directly proportional to the Boltzmann population. Now, more the number of molecules present at the lower energy level, more is the number of transitions which is taking place, so higher is the intensity of that transition. Now, let's say there are two energy levels which are closely spaced and both have 100 molecules. Now, these 100 molecules in this case will be, let's say there is 30 molecules in the higher energy level. So in principle you can have a maximum of 70 transitions taking place. But in this case, since the energy gap is higher, this will be somewhere like 9-10, suppose. So there are more number of transitions possible in this case, and hence more is the intensity of the transition. So that means higher is the population of energy level, the lower energy level from which transitions are occurring, more is the intensity of that transition. And lastly, transition moment integral or the transition dipole moment. So that means more is the value of this, either it's positive or negative, doesn't matter, it is getting squared and also modulus. So higher is the value for the transition moment integral, much more favorable is the transition to take place, or much more allowed the transition is, and in that case the intensity will also be higher. Okay. Lastly, I would like to discuss the electromagnetic spectrum with respect to frequency and wavelength, and how we can name each of those ranges, because one question had come in GATE earlier from that. So let's say you have frequency in hertz, lambda in meters, and this is the name. So starting from 10 to the power 6, 10 to the power 8, 10 to the power 10, 12, 15, 18, 20, 100, 1, 10 power minus 2, minus 4, minus 7, minus 10, minus 12. This is the range for NMR, this is the range for ESR, this is the range for microwave or rotational spectroscopy, this is the range for infrared or vibrational spectroscopy, this is the range for UV visible or electronic spectroscopy, this is the range for X-rays or X-ray diffraction, this is the range for gamma rays. Okay. So I remember there was a question from GATE where they had given you frequency of the radiation, and they had asked what kind of radiation it is. I don't remember exactly, but either it was 10 power 10 or 10 power minus 12, and it was some of the either microwave or IR. Okay, so that is all about the introduction to molecular spectroscopy, which I have discussed in this lecture, and in the next lecture I'll be discussing microwave spectroscopy for diatomic molecules, their selection rules, what kind of transitions are allowed, which are not allowed, and the questions which have come from that part in NET, GATE, TIFR and IIT JAM.